I saw three National Guard personnel about a block south of that at 17th in Pennsylvania on Tuesday afternoon, again, when I was leaving the White House. And that was I took note of it and thought, oh, they're topside. That was the first time I had seen them in that area walking the streets. I had seen them in both metro stops because you can get on Farragut West and be on Capitol Hill in about 10 minutes. It's great for those of us who sometimes go back and forth. And, I'd seen them, of course, in Farragut North on the Red Line. But that was the first time I'd seen them just walking around. And again, they didn't have much to do. They were walking, three of them together on the edge of the sidewalk, and they were talking to each other and kind of looking around, and everybody in their suits and ties were just walking past them like, no big deal. And then, of course, the worst happens 24 hours later. Juliet Karam, a former DHS official, I'm mispronouncing her last name, but she was on CNN Wednesday night after the shooting, and she made a great point that they don't have a mission. That their mission is to just be here. And as she said, that's not a mission. They're put in the middle of this political game that the administration is playing, and they don't have anything to do except stand around.
Yeah.
I reached into my work bag, which has a flap, one day in the metro to get my water bottle out, and one of them stared me down. That's the extent of, it seems like, what they're doing. If this was about crime in the district, and this is a very sad thing, they would be on Georgia Avenue in Northeast. They would be on Benning Road Northeast. They would be in Anacostia. They would be, apparently now some of them are going to be paired up with MPD officers. If this had been about crime, they would have had a mission, and they would have been where the crime is. The crime ain't in the Farragut North metro station where everybody's in their no wrinkle slacks and their coats from Macy's, and they're going to their office job to work at their association. There's a lot of media around there, a lot of bureaus, the bureaus that still exist.
A lot of bureaucrats, a lot of media, a lot of business people.
Right.
No
That
crime.
is not where the crime is. That is not where the crime is. So that's been a flaw of the quote unquote mission. I hate to call it a mission because I think Juliet's right. There is no mission. So maybe it'll change now. Maybe they'll be paired up with MPD, but that creates all kinds of problems. They haven't trained together. Are they even on the same frequency on their radios? If they do start going into worse places where crime is, are these folks from military police National Guard units, or are they just infantry thrown in, go get in that car, go get in the cruiser with Officer Williams and Officer Smith? Even if they do now have a mission, it can still go horribly wrong, because what happens if they go on a raid to serve a drug warrant or something, and a gun is pulled by the folks when they kick the door in the apartment? Are the National Guard people going to react in a way that actually helps MPD in that situation, or is something else tragic going to happen? Again, there's so many questions here, and this was not. So they want to throw 500 more National Guard troops in the district, but this wasn't anyone from the district who did this, who pulled the trigger on Wednesday afternoon. This was a guy who drove from Washington State, the other Washington. He drove across the country. And we can get into that, which seems a little weird.
Well,
this wasn't a D.C. resident who had a bad day or had a confrontation with National Guard, or they were going to serve a warrant. This was someone from as far away as you can get. So I don't know how you can square the circle of let's throw 500 more troops in there when this guy was from 3,000 miles away.